Raj has selected a couple of judgments, Supreme Court, High Court, and Tribunal also. And it's a very interesting aspect which I'm noticing nowadays, that you can't be sure about any judgment, and moreover about the logic and reasoning taken by the courts to allow or disallow. And very frankly, sometimes I really get scared also, because sometimes the judgment may come in favor of a taxpayer or the department, but the logic taken in the judgment have a far-reaching, implication, and that can hit anybody, whether it's a department or it is a taxpayer, in very badly in some future cases. And that's the trend we will be discussing in one or two such cases, how this happened. And another trend, what I noticed is that sometimes the courts, considering certain extraneous factor, I will not say extraneous means when the law is new or something, you can't find the fault with taxpayer certain things. So the court goes out of the way under the inherent power under Article 226 or 32, as the case may be, and gives them some relief to the taxpayer. But in future, another set of taxpayers want to use the same judgment in their favor, and hoping that there is a precedent on the same issue, so they will get the same favorable judgment. I think that thinking should be avoided by the consultants or the advocate and the taxpayers also. When there are specific provisions in the law, that will always prevail. Somebody should not be get too much of by the judgment, some judgment, straight judgment here and there. So as a tax practitioner or a chartered accountant or a advocate, we have to be, while giving advice to a client, we should be always very clear, even right reading the judgment, whether this judgment, what likelihood of is holding up, continuing in future or not. You simply cannot go, this court has held ocean freight and not liable to pay it, so for future everything is looks good. No. You have to apply your mind and then see the judgment. You have to sit on judgment over the judgment and then advise your client. That would be real contribution. So those are some issues we will be taking over. And of course, this trend of discussing judgments is really good. I'm very happy that very interesting judgments have been taken. Not only the outcome of the judgment, but as I'm saying, ratio dissenting or even some obiter dicta use the judgments can be really interesting to understand instead. With that, I hand over to Raj. Thank you.
Recent important judicial pronouncement under GST. Again, we are not discussing the judgments, as Sir said. We are discussing the critical issues which are arising out of the judgments. All of us would have read all these judgments and what are the assessor's contention, the department's contention, and the final verdict of the judgment. But once the judgments have been delivered, what are the critical issues or emerging issues which are coming out of the judgment? That is the main agenda of this study circle. We have selected 6 judgments, 3 of the Supreme Court and 3 of the High Court. And all the 6 judgments are all live issues, which all of the people are facing day in and day out. And we will be trying to discuss on these judgments one by one. The first is on the Ola Fleet Technologies versus Union of India. It's a very recent judgment of the Telangana High Court. It is related to payment of GST under wrong head. So what is the facts of the case? Is that Ola Fleet So Ola Fleet is basically a company which is providing passenger transportation, motor vehicles on rental basis to various individuals. So it is basically set up in Telangana and is giving the vehicle on lease to drivers in different states. So the driver is in Telangana, they will charge CGST, SGST, and driver is in other state and charge IGST. Now what has happened in the 2018-19, the audit was conducted, and during the audit it was found by the department that instead of paying CGST, SGST, they paid IGST. So the reason being the transactions or drivers which were related to Telangana were mapped to Andhra Pradesh, and according to this issue had arisen. The show cause notice was issued in demanding the payment of CGST and SGST. the assessee challenged the decision in the Telangana High Court, relying on the Kerala High Court judgment in the case of SAGS, and said that the Kerala High Court had allowed the adjustment of refund under burden against the demand under the other hand. The Telangana High Court said relied on the judgment of the Jharkhand High Court in Sri Nanak Ferro Alloys, and said that since there is a procedure given that if you are making a wrong payment of tax, you claim the refund of the wrong tax and pay the correct tax. That is Section 77 of the CGST Act and Section 19 of the IGST Act. And accordingly, the Telangana High Court said that since there is a procedure given, that procedure has to be followed. Not adopting the procedure means such a procedure of adjustment is not provided in the relevant statute, and allowing such refund adjustment will be going beyond the statute. And therefore, the Telangana High Court gave the verdict that the adjustment is not allowed. However, you can claim a refund of the wrongly paid IGST, and directed the department to process the refund within 2 months once the show cause notice demand is complied and the refund application is done. So now this was the case. Now, what are the issues arising out of this judgment? One by one, we'll take up. And I would invite sir's views also on this, and other participants also, since it is a study circle. Anyone who wants to speak and wants to talk on any of the questions are welcome. So the first is whether the reasoning given by the Telangana High Court while passing the order correct. If you look at the section 19 and section 77, which says that if a registered person has paid IGST on a supply to be considered as interstate, but subsequently it is held as an intrastate, then he can claim the refund of the IGST. Similarly, vice versa is possible. In both the cases, it is specifically mentioned in section also that interest will not be applicable. So here the court has strictly relied on this section and said that since the law specifically provides that section 77 and section 19 both provide that since there is a mechanism that you pay the correct tax and claim refund of the wrong tax, you have to follow it. The assessee had relied on SAGS judgment in the context of e-way bill, wherein there was under wrong head the payment was made, and the court allowed that you can adjust this. Now this is not the case of e-way bill. This is a case of a supply. When the returns were filed, audit was conducted, everything was done. 99C also was filed, and after that it was found that this is a mistake. So whether such a refund or adjustment of refund is possible, that is one thing. Court said there is no such provision. They relied on the rule 4 of the GST rules at that time, so which is rule 92 currently of the CGST rules. 92.1 proviso. 92.1 proviso says that provided that in cases where the demand of refund is completely adjusted against any outstanding demand under the Act or any other law for the time being in force, that order giving adjustment shall be issued. Now this proviso has been deleted with effect from 15th by notification 15 of 2021 with effect from 18th of May 2021. This has been deleted. The main section rule 92 says that the officer is satisfied, he may satisfy the refund is due and payable, then he may pass an order after making any adjustment against the outstanding demand, and the balance shall be refunded. Now here, whether there was a refund due, whether there was a demand, there was a show cause notice, there is an outstanding demand, but whether there was any refund due to the assessee, whether any refund application was filed, that is a question, and whether that without filing of the refund application, that adjustment can be done. That is the question we need to analyze here in this case. So anyone has any views, sir? So
that before we invite views physically over here, I'd just like to inform members who are viewing this virtually. If anyone who has any input or any query, you can use the chat box, as well as you can use your raise your hand button, and we can allow you to speak. You can have a one-to-one interaction with our faculties over here. So friends, anyone has any queries virtually also, please use the chat box or use the raise hand button as well. Thank you. We'll now take up the queries.
Now, regarding the adjustment, if there is a omission or an error, there is a section 39, subsection 9, which provides in subsequent return, you can adjust up to the September return. Now I think it is 30th November. Now it is 30th. So in that section 39, the return which is there, the return does not provide the amendment in a wrong payment of tax. Now, in my opinion, that is a procedure, not allowing in that. But section provides. Having said so, I can contradict myself by saying that section 77 is a specific section, which says you have to go through a refund process. So there is a tie, if I say so. But looking at a larger perspective, see, ultimately the tax has come to the revenue. Now, when tax has come, now this is a mistake. For a mistake, you cannot be hanged. And I believe filing a return is a directory provision. Though now under the section it appears to be a mandatory provision. So one can very well argue to say so. Now, before that, I would like to also compare the situation in Bharti Airtel, where in the case of an option, selection of an option by cash ledger, payment of cash ledger, or a payment of a credit ledger. So one cannot say this particular decision of SAGS is overruled by Bharti Airtel, because the fact, particular in this case of Ola Fleet, where it is a mistake, the tax has been paid. I understand that also allowing this may result in a chaotic situation for a revenue to how to handle. But filing, because you rightly read it, section 77(2) says there won't be any interest payment is there. So there is no gain by the revenue. In such scenario, I'm of the opinion, practically if I have to see, there should not be no need for an assessee to apply. Department themselves can adjust this particular refund against the payment which is to be made.
Okay. Thank you, Bhai. So, sir, here we need to see that in the judgment also the specifically Telangana, the authority said that is causing a loss to us because the IGST is going to the Andhra Pradesh government, the SGST portion. So SGST of the Telangana will directly come to us. Now SGST portion has gone over there. So it is causing a loss. So it will be what you are suggesting between the government, the settlement will be a big issue here if we allow such things. So the settlement provisions do not give that if there is any specific provision is there that will allow this. So that will be one. Naresh Bhai has raised.
Raj, only one thing.
Yes.
Regarding settlement. What my point here was, instead of assessee filing a particular form, why department or a revenue officer cannot file this particular in their portal? They file this is a particular, whatever the procedure has to be done.
Let the form be filed by the SSC, but not for the refund and repayment. Yes, the form be filed by me for adjustment. I'll give the details.
I agree.
Obviously the officer cannot do my work over sitting over there, sir. It is that I have to do the work on my own behalf. Let me file a form, but instead of claiming a refund, there is no interest paid either on either party. But let me provide the details, and there should be a system for adjustment. That is, I think, a more doable.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Just until Naresh Bhai can
Yes.
will comment.
Naresh Bhai, if you can unmute yourself and speak.
Yeah, Raj and Solanki sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Sir, the Raj has raised the one point, where is the application for the refund? If there would an application for the refund due to you, then the adjustment is possible. I am going basically to the section 77 itself, which says, suppose when such kind of payment is made, the last two lines of the provision says, shall be refunded the amount of taxes so paid in such a manner subject to such conditions as may be prescribed. So it is obligatory on the department. If department finds out that this is a wrong payment, so department is obliged to refund this amount subject to certain conditions and procedures. And for claiming this kind of refund, I don't think that any particular procedure is being prescribed. In my opinion, once the officer takes a position that it is a wrong payment, then it is a duty to, first, it shall be allowed, refund shall be allowed. So whether the refund has to be allowed suo moto by the department or by the, the application of the assessee, I think that is a big, in my opinion, there is no clarity on this. But I believe that the way in which the language of the section is there, the department is obliged to, pass the refund first, and then, they can adjust this. I think this is my view on this particular topic. Because section 77 says shall be allowed. It shall be refunded. Because see, these are, Raj, this has become a very big problem now. In case of an indenting agent commission, there are so many cases. When you pay CGST, SGST, department is asking IGST. And when you pay the IGST, some of the officers are asking, CGST, SGST. And the amount are so huge, the people do not have the liquidity to pay first and then they get the money from the department. So I think, I would like to go with the section 77(1) saying that refund shall be refunded. So with the subject to the prescribed condition and other thing, but there are no specific rules as far as this particular refund is concerned. I am through, Raja.
Yeah, thank you. Sir, you want
to I think a lot of views have come on this particular issue. Let me give the background why this section was introduced first.
Yeah.
Debate was going on while drafting the law. This point has been raised by many people that there can be unintentional lapse on the part of any taxpayer, treating a particular supply the intrastate supply or interstate supply now. And in that case, he has paid the tax. So he is not going to evade anything. He has no intention to evade anything. And in that case, if we take the route of the adjudication and the entire route, and that will lead to the levy of the interest. Naturally, if suppose you have paid a wrong tax, you have not paid IGST. In that case, the liability of IGST will come along with the interest also. So in the entire process, the Y media was find out that yes, let's make a provision whereby he can claim the refund of wrongly paid tax. Of course, there will not be interest liability, and he has to pay back the right tax, whatever CGST or the whatever right tax is there. Then the question was debated is going to be difficult, as Naresh Bhai mentioned that liquidity is going to be a big issue now. He's going to get refund much later than his liability to payment will come down. Then the whole issue was debated with the, there is a accounting section of the Government of India and the GST people, both people. Is it possible to have this suo motu adjustment whereby one person simply say, based upon order of a department that yes, you have paid wrongly this amount at this CGST or GST instead of IGST. So please shift the amount from here to there. It's money lying with the government. One hands of the government, the second amount. The problem what happened now, if you see the whole accounting system which is followed, when the tax is paid by a person, if you pay CGST and SGST, your CGST portion goes to the Government of India, your SGST portion go to respective state or UT, whatever it is. If it is IGST, entire money goes to the center. And from that, the money comes distributing after making the adjustment for the ITC claim. Okay, this entire rules are made for how to settle the IGST account there. The question, let's take example, suppose somebody has paid CGST and SGST now. Okay, and SGST has gone to state of Maharashtra. And thereafter tomorrow it says it has to be paid as a IGST now. So this money what has gone to the state of Maharashtra, it has to come out of Maharashtra and goes to the IGST pool again. Maybe after IGST pool, the money may come back to the state of Maharashtra. That's a different issue altogether now. Because there is a different mechanism for settlement of IGST balance. If you remember about 1 year to 1.5 years ago, the manner of utilization of ITC credit has been changed. First, the IGST had to be used. The reason for that 49 section, 49A, something was added there. The whole reason was that central government didn't want to keep any much balance in the IGST account. Because if the IGST has been adjusted, IGST amount has paid has been taken as a credit by the buyer, it has been adjusted. Less amount is left out. If the less amount is left out, the state are not depending upon the center for getting the money from IGST. So the whole, I'm just coming to practical aspect first, then we come to legally also. So the saying that there can be simple mechanism, etc., etc. It was debated and discussed with the accounts department, C&DG department, and the other department who deals with the accounting system and the GST. They really found very, very difficult to come out of this situation, and that was the reason. Otherwise, why the government should go for such system of getting here and the refund, and it's not the government is aware that is going to be big liquid issue also there. First point. So that's the background I'm giving you why the government has made this. Now come to the legal aspect now. Rule 92, what Raj has mentioned that here it says that if there is a demand and there is a refund. So the demand can be adjusted against refund. So indirectly, what he's saying that if there is a demand of IGST and refund of CGST, why don't you adjust against each other? Am I correct? That's what he's proposing now. This is not possible again. This Rule 92 and what he has mentioned also Rule Section 54 itself. This is a rule making. This is getting the power from the Section 54. 54 itself allows this adjustment of the before you the refund demand is there to be adjusted. But this adjustment of demand against the refund has to be same account. If the IGST refund is there, it can be adjusted against the demand of IGST. IGST refund cannot be adjusted against the demand of the CGST and HST. This is the problem. Okay. So this rule 92 or 5410 or 11, whatever number is there, this is difficult. It can't be. It's not workable. The second point, but by raise Section 39. 39 says about the revision of return. Am I correct? I mean, in the next subsequent month, you can change it. We have to keep in mind one aspect. What is Section 39.10 or 9, 39.9, subsection 9 says? Wherever there is a error of data entry, you have raised the invoice. In the invoice, what you have given to your client, your customer, you have mentioned IGST. But while feeding in the return, you have mentioned CGST, HGST. That can be done away. Now, what we have found here that yes, I charge IGST. The IGST bill has gone to them. Now, it will amount to the revision of invoice. 39.9 does not envisage any situation where you can amend the invoice. What you can amend return is you write 10,000 rupees in the invoice. By mistake, you wrote 1 lakh in the return. That you can do it. But suppose tomorrow say, no, I mean, I want to change it completely. That you can't. From 10,000, you say, no, I want to be 50,000 value. I want to change the taxes. No, you can't do it. So that's another problem about 39.9 now. While reading the judgment of this Andhra Pradesh Telangana High Court, somewhere there is a finding that in such situation, there will be loss of revenue to the particular state. I think state of Telangana, they mentioned. No, I think that's a wrong understanding or the wrong representation made by the state government. There cannot be loss of revenue. If he has paid IGST, his share he would have got subsequently. Yes, there will be delay. Today, if he has, suppose somebody pays SGST and CGST, money will go to him in the same month. If it is paid through IGST, money will come to maybe after 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Okay, that's the only problem. There's no loss of revenue to the state by changing this particular, wrong place of supply. This is all along the rule. Now, I think the one very important aspect, this is not part of the question, that's why I'm raising the point now. Suppose in this case, the person has paid IGST, for example, I don't know whatever he has paid it now. His customer has taken this, OLA is different thing. That's like the normal case. It's like sale of goods now. Your supplier has paid IGST and buyer has taken the credit of IGST. Tomorrow it change from IGST to CGST and LGST. Can the department come and challenge the ITC taken by the buyer? This is a very big issue because here you yourself accepting, yes, Section 77 and 19, whatever it is now, you yourself will say, sir, there is a mistake ho gaya. I should have charged CGST. It means you're done wrong. It's a very big challenge, I'm telling you. But of course, in the case of warehousing, custom bonded warehouse, if you remember, there was a controversy initially, not controversy, it was to pay only because what happened when the goods were imported and kept in the warehouse before clearances in the warehouse, suppose in Bombay only now. So when he was selling the goods, custom warehouse goods can be sold before it is removed for the domestic clearances. The warehousing, sale in the warehousing. So thereafter, it was IGST was to be paid on now. Okay. Now what happened? The system, the GST are one by not allowing you to capture the IGST. So what the system was saying, the warehouse is in Bombay, your buyer is in Bombay, not warehouse, sorry. Your supplier is in Bombay, your buyer is in Bombay. So both, it will accept only CGST, LGST. Even the law was saying you have to pay IGST. So since the system I know, people were totally in a very big suit. Now what is to be done? Legally IGST was paid. I know IGST, the system does not accept. I can't file the return. So they all paid the CGST, LGST. Thereafter, the whole thing happened there only. So the board issued a clarification for a limited purpose of this goods sold while in warehouse. that the ITC of the buyer will not be challenged. Okay. So this was the clarification given the board in well limited area for that only. Okay. Now I'm coming to the problem now. Of course, this type of situation will come. The legal basis will be very simple. When the return was filed, government is accepted the money as IGST. I've taken the credit of IGST, so you can't challenge. Can't challenge this my credit, not based on this clarification. Otherwise, it can't be challenged also. But yes, departmental officer can always take this view, but that can be. Now, in this context, as a chamber, there's a 1.1 Naresh is also taken that section 77 and 19, if you read it now, there's the point when, we took up this case with the government, we told them, 77 says, after just coming to amount last time, amount shall be refunded the amount of taxes so paid in such manner and subject to such condition as may be prescribed. Here the condition, what the government should have prescribed, that yes, by mistake you paid IGST, so you please take the refund of IGST plus pay the CGST. But this condition will be there, the government will clarify in the condition that ITC availed by your customer will not be disturbed. So that condition should have come through this, and that was the purpose of this. Otherwise, this rule section does not require any new condition to be put there. You got the point. Otherwise, it's going to create a much more bigger problem. So that is all I think I want to take on the first issue, whether the reasoning given the yes, I totally agree with this. As initially I mentioned it that here, let us not follow only one straight judgment in our favor, like Suji's that Kerala High Court judgment. People very happy, okay, her case maybe will get a benefit. You can't when there's specific problem in the law is there. There is no dispute about interpretation and applicability of this particular section. How can you expect the same thing will happen every time you'll get the benefit? You can't get the benefit. So this reasoning given by, except one reasoning that they lost of revenue, that's wrong reasoning given. Otherwise, reasonings are very clear. Specific provision in the law will prevail. No court can interfere in such situations. Yes, sir.
We also have some one participant Prakash Sinha. We just hear if
please
join us.
No problem.
Mr. Sinha, if you can please unmute.
Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, perfectly audible.
I'm the late joinee in this forum here, but I have just learned something from the previous speaker here. And my point is that we are discussing the section 77 and the rule 92 here also. While going through the rule 92, it talks about the order sanctioning refund. The 92 is for the section 54, and if 54 is in the chapter 11, which talks about the refund of taxes here. So this refund and the section 77 refund, both are works on a different axis itself here. Both are not co-joint here. Section 77, if we see the head note of the section 77, it initially says that taxes wrongly collected and paid to the central government. So it acknowledges that the tax has been wrongly collected and it has been paid to the central government. The moment it has come here, then we can invoke the Article 265 here, saying that the state cannot collect any tax which is not as per the law here, and the state should not also hold this tax here, and we can claim the refund of the taxes here. This section 77, I feel that is nothing to do with the rule which is given in the rule 92. I have just going through the section 77, and I have just came to know that there is some circular number 162 has been issued on this prospect here. 162/18/2021. I am not going to circular here, but my understanding is that this section 77 refund under section 77 is of the. It has nothing to do with the power of the proper officer under rule 92. That's my submission, sir. Thank you, sir.
You can just give the closing remarks.
So thank you all the participants. So in my view, I think I agree with Sushil sir that this is a very clear case that there is a section provision in the law 77 and 19, and the court has very clearly given that when there's a provision, you can't interpret around that. The applicability of the rule will be in the context that there is a same type of tax, then only that refund can be adjusted. There are different types of tax here. And so again, the limited applicability and the thought process behind them, which sir has very beautifully explained, should be considered. So I think the reasoning we can conclude on this point and move to the next issue.
Only one second. Mr.
Yes.
Sinha has raised the one point that Rule 92 does not refer to the refund under Section 77.
Yes.
If you read, Mr. Sinha, that RFD 01, and RFD 01, the refund covers the situation, to my understanding, all the refund under Section 54. So one of the categories specifically given in RFD 01 is this particular Section 77 only, POS. If you read this J category, tax paid on interstate supply, which is subsequently held to be interstate supply, etc., etc. So I think if the demand is confirmed and refund is under that particular 77, this adjustment is possible.
But again, sir, there is no auto adjustment. Again, I have to first make a refund application.
Yes.
It has to be sanctioned, and thereafter the adjustment could be there. But again, as you raise the point, it should be under the same act, because as it reads, that demand under this act. So a cross adjustment, again, that's a
They don't allow. Yes, they don't allow. They could have done the same accounting entry. Yes. Chalo, next case.
The next case is now what are the remedies available to Ola fleet. One of the remedies is very simple, that they should pay the tax and claim refund. One thing which we were discussing with sir also is that there was a thought process with the government that they will set up a tribunal, like under the CST and the VAT. There were tribunals which decided that if inter-head adjustment is possible, the matter will be referred to the tribunal, and then the tribunal will do the adjustment. So this is one thing which can be represented. I would request sir also to give this input.
No, I think the tribunal was different context. Initially, they were thinking to have the one bench of tribunal in Delhi only, where this POS matter was to be, place of supply matter was to be decided. So remedy is available simple. What as per law only, he has to pay back the whatever not paid, and will get refund of the second. Yes, there's no other way out presently.
Yeah. So the next case is that if Ola fleet has made a similar mistake in the next subsequent financial year, where CGST, SGST of 3 crores each were paid instead of IGST of 6 crores, whether it can adjust the excess payment of CGST, SGST in the financial year 2020 against the CGST, SGST demand of 1890. So anyone wants to give his views are welcome, please, first.
I think such a thing could possibly be permitted, because a refund of CGST, SGST is getting adjusted against the demand of CGST, SGST. So that should be permissible.
That using that Rule 92.
Yes. That should be permitted.
Yeah, this would go sequentially, basically.
Yes. So the refund should be determined. It should be payable to me, and there should be outstanding demand at that point of time. And instead of putting it back to my account, it's basically adjusted against the outstanding demand.
The issue of the separate state registration.
No, sir, the GST number would be the same. And this entire refund application will be called GST. So if I'm making a refund application from,
you're right. If a different state, same state. If the demand and refund both are in the same state, you're right. That's right. If a different state, you can't.
What GST only? What GST only?
Correct. Your point is right. The same state, for Telangana, here to then he can adjust.
The CG can knock off, but SG will be.
Yes. Okay.
So in that case, you will have to file a refund for this and then adjust that. That way.
Seeking that, requesting for office suo we can ask for adjustment.
Adjustment.
In the same application, I can make that there's a demand on my account on account of my wrong payment.
Yes.
So please adjust against this one.
But that is causing the issue over here. Let's take a reverse situation. There was a refund for 1819 and there's a demand for 2021. So since the refund is now due to me, can I ask for the waiver of interest for 2021? In your case, you have put forth there's a refund in 2021 and a demand outstanding. So the interest is already accruing over there. There's no relief for me for under
The
section
interest
50.
calculation.
For this place of supply issue,
There is no interest.
no interest.
No, sir. See, over here we are looking at
2020.
a demand in 1819, standalone demand, and a refund due to me in 2021.
So I hope we are talking about here the same, only the POS demand and POS refund. Both things. We are not talking anything else.
If it is both is the only POS issue, then no interest at all.
That's what we are talking
Yes.
about. If it is non-POS case,
Yes.
you can't get refund.
So in that case, I'm
Interest
talking
will
about
happen.
something. Let's say there's a refund for 1819 due to POS, refund for 1819 due to POS. What I have to pay IGST for 1819, there is no interest, no issues on that one, no discussion on that. Now, while I was making an application under section 77 for the 1819 POS refund order has been issued, and by that time there is a demand order for 2021. So since this tax was already lying with the government right since 1819, can I claim that there is no interest to be levied for 2021? From 2021 till, let's say, 2024, 1.5 years.
Rather, you should get your interest on refund. No? You are talking about
So my
interest on
interest on
demand.
refund is only 16%, 6%. My
Whatever the
payment is
percent.
18%.
So both you can't adjust the demand. There, the interest calculation will be made separately. On your demand separately, on refund separately.
Okay.
That's all.
That is all.
You can't expect it
The
18%,
interest
6%. No. That way you can't expect.
That
If
is
we
better.
adjust it, then your interest will be calculated for 18, 19 till the date of this adjustment.
Yes.
And then your interest on demand will be calculated.
Yes. Okay.
But I don't know whether interest can be adjusted. That I'm not very sure.
No, there is no specific.
Only for demand, only for the tax. Okay.
Next question is on the reverse charge. So in financial year 2021, the Ola fleet has made a similar mistake in making payment of GST and reverse charge on legal services. So the lawyer is in Mumbai and Ola fleet is in Telangana. So here, instead of making payment of IGST on legal services, it has paid CGST, SGST. Now, since both the cases, the place of supply from the perspective of receipt of service is Telangana only, and this is not reported anywhere in GSTR 3B. So will this adjustment be allowed? That is the question. Means on legal services, he had to pay IGST under reverse charge, but he has paid CGST, SGST. The revenue has gone to the state government here, and if he had paid IGST, that also would have gone to the state government only. So whether this adjustment will be allowed? This adjustment is not under the same head as we discussed, separate heads, but whether this adjustment will be allowed, that is the question.
Before that, my question whether there is a need for adjustment, because ultimately central government gets its share, Telangana government has got its share. Had it been in the IGST also, it would have come back to Telangana for the same amount, sir.
No. I think then we are reopening the whole section now, whole discussion now. If we take this plea that he has paid CGST, SGST, whereby the share of the state has gone to particular Telangana state only. And if he had paid IGST, the same money would have come back to him also. Okay. So then we are reopening the entire debate on the section 77 now. Then there was no such need. So the exact amount is not coming back. It's not one-to-one. If you see the whole system of the settlement of account IGST, first IGST, suppose IGST 50,000 crore has gone to central government kitty. The entire money goes to central government. They keep a separate account in Consolidated Fund of India now. Out of that, whatever has been adjusted now by the utilization of ITC, that's already gone to respective states. Okay. Now, out of 50,000, suppose 35,000 has been adjusted. Okay, by the utilization of that amount is ITC, 15,000. That 15,000 crore will again go back in the particular formula, whereby the first what is happening, they have given in section, whatever section in IGST Act, 17 is there. I mean, whatever the supply is made to unregistered persons. Okay, so that value is available there. For that only, where the IGST is paid. The first 50% amount of that value, I mean, say if the rate is 18%, 9% amount will go to center, 9% will come to the state. Likewise, where the sale has been made to composite section 10 people only, like 3-4 situations they have given. First, that adjustment made. After that adjustment, whatever left out, that is again divided into some ratio basis. So it's not that every IGST payment will equally amount will go to them. No, this adjustment, and after that some amount left out, then some total, sale or total revenue and everything, something they kept.
So there is a provision section 17.2. 17.1 talks about out of the IGST which has been paid to the central government, adjust all the B2C or the composition, all those things adjust, and whatever is balanced, then that will be distributed, apportioned to the state where the supply has taken place, and the central government where supply has taken place in case of union territory, and then the entire thing. So here, this reverse charge, if you look at the interstate supply to an unregistered person or to a registered person. So the supply is not to an unregistered person in this case, it is a registered person only. And he means he has basically he has, though he has availed the he would have availed the credit of the
whatever amount tax paid.
Whatever tax has been paid. So he would have availed that ITC of that, because on the reverse charge, whatever he had paid CGST, he would have availed the credit. So here again, there would be double whammy that either he should reverse the credit, and then that IGST has to be paid. All those things, as we discuss in the outward supply slide discussion question, this also will have to be taken into consideration, and it will become a lot of difficulty in this scenario also. Yes.
So I think the same here, the same system will follow. If you have paid wrongly, suppose you have put CGST, IGST, then you please pay the IGST, claim the refund for this, but your ITC availment will not be disturbed. Otherwise, it's going to create a chaotic.
Yes.
Because, you know, very interesting aspect when we were dealing this particular case about the ITC availment of wrongly paid tax. Suppose I'm a buyer and Raj is the seller now. He has paid IGST where he was supposed to pay the CGST and IGST. So I've taken wrong credit of IGST. Okay. Again, I'm passing on the same credit to him. If mine is wrong, his is also wrong. So it will nowhere add to where it is going to end. It's going to be really chaotic. So therefore, I mean, government also did a good thing in a particular warehousing thing. They said, no, please don't disturb at this aspect. Otherwise, mine wrong, his wrong. But up to what level it will go? So that
It never ends.
It never ends.
Yeah. So I think we move to the next case.
Yeah.
Sir, Solanki, sir, in that case, will it not be advisable that government issues the blanket circular for rejection of the wrong this ITC, sir?
Well, that's why I'm saying you. I think from the chamber.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. We'll take care of that, sir.
Yeah. What I'm telling you, section 77, I was referring to 77 of CGST and 19 of the IGST Act.
Yeah.
They have given amount shall be refunded subject to the condition prescribed therein.
Yeah.
So we must take up with the government that in this section, you please clarify that condition will be this condition that yes, you please pay the wrongly whatever tax you are not paid it and take the refund of wrongly paid amount, and the condition will be there that your ITC availed by your buyer will not be disturbed.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
On the other side, it should also be that the ITC, if not availed by the buyer, should not be subsequently made available also. Let's say, by sitting in Gujarat, I have wrongly charged him CGST, SGST, and he knows that he can't claim CGST, SGST from Maharashtra. Later on, once I'm revising back to IGST, he should not be made eligible also to be on fair footing. When I'm not asking him to reverse it, he should not be made eligible also in that case.
That can be a tax planning tool. So if it is CGST, SGST chargeable, but I will charge IGST. Credit.
But that's a depend, of course. Up to September is there, he can claim the credit. September is gone, that money is lost.
So I'm
money is lost.
I'm trying to put it the other way around, sir, that even if it is before September, amendment is made. See, in a situation where I've given him an IGST invoice and I'm now trying to convert it to intrastate supply, his ITC availment should not be disturbed. That's the fundamental thing.
Yeah,
but in a reverse scenario where the ITC availment was not eligible to him, should it be made subsequently eligible?
No.
Because it has to be on equal footing. What if I understand?
But that will happen. It's the exceptional cases. It will happen that, of course, if you charge CGST, your buyer is going to tell you, Baba, why you're charging CGST? I can't claim it now. So, एक second में आपको बोल देगा. The people will cancel that particular invoice or through credit note and issue a new one. Of course, writing sometimes it happens basically by mistake or done it. So what we can do it all, we can tell you please issue the credit note and issue a new invoice for that. Yes. And in the invoice, please mention very clearly that e-way bill, of course, the old e-way bill will continue. That's the only way out. They can't challenge it. Otherwise, it's going to loss to him. No? ITC is going to be lost to him.
So we have had cases where people had the CGST, SGST invoice simply booked in IGST in the books of accounts.
In the buyer.
ITC at the buyer. अरे वो उधर स्टेट का ना गलत इनवॉइस में से कुछ भी दिखा होगा
Initial 1 or 2 years. I think
initial
now
everybody
everybody is
simply I book it
Now the
ITC.
system is catching it.
Ah,
Problem is
now-
system is catching it. Till next.
Yes.
So the next is on the renting of residential premises. It's again a very live issue, and so there is this person Thagar, Vasudev, Amrish, and there are 4 people who had a residential complex in Bangalore, Karnataka, and that complex had 42 rooms and 2,400 square feet of terrace area. They had given it to one company on lease. That company was involved in giving these rooms to students for accommodation, hostel accommodation for a period of 3 to 11 months. Along with that, they gave maintenance, food, Wi-Fi, etc. On this, there was a package which was given. This company was claiming the exemption under the entry number 13 of notification 9 of IGST, IGST rate, services by renting of residential dwelling for use as residence. Now here the lesser and the lessee, the Thagar, Vasudev and the other 4, when they were raising invoice for the lease rental, this company, Tidwell Spaces, said, you don't charge GST and you claim exemption under this entry 13 only. So what they said that we'll seek an advance ruling from the Karnataka authority of advance ruling, and that they sought an advance ruling. And advance ruling authority said no, this is not allowed. Entry 13 will not apply. This is not a residential dwelling; it is a hotel room. The lease is not for using the premises as residence, and this is basically similar to a hotel guest house. You can go for that entry number 12 or that entry number 14. 1,000 rupees, 1,000 rupees per day exemption. Then again, this was challenged in the AAAR. Same reasonings were given, and they said that this is a hostel building is more akin to a social accommodation, not a residential accommodation. And the benefit of exemption is only if it is a residential dwelling used as a residence. Then this petition was filed in the Karnataka High Court. Karnataka High Court gave a exactly opposite decision and said that this is a residential dwelling. This arrangement is getting covered under entry number 13 of the notification, exemption notification. The reasoning given that this accommodation is basically as a hostel for students, and it is classified under the Bangalore Municipal Corporation, the residential category under the master plan of the BBMP. It is then it relied on the Supreme Court judgment in the case of Kishore Chandra Singh, even other Bombay High Court judgment, wherein it said that what is a residence? General parlance test that where the person eats, drinks, sleeps, etc. is a residential place. Students are staying in the hostel as a residence for a period of 3 to 12 months. It is more of a permanent or not a temporary accommodation. It is some kind of permanence is there, not akin to a hotel guest house where it is only 1 or 2 days or 1 week. So again, it said that notification does not require the lessee itself to use the premises as residence. Anyone can use it as a residence. So once the ultimate beneficiary is using as a residence, that exemption will be available. The department said that this premises is having a commercial license under the Karnataka Bangalore shopping establishment, whether that and therefore it is not residential, it is commercial. So again, court said that is not relevant. Whatever be the nature under the that shopping establishment, since the use the notification goes on the use and is residential, then it will be then it can be said that that is the entire judgment of the Karnataka High Court. So here, what the plea? I'll just come. So what the plea of the petitioner was is that the court should consider the principle of purposive interpretation, that while interpreting an exemption notification, regard must be given to the object of the purpose and object of the notification. Since the notification clearly says it is services by renting of residential dwelling for use as residence, so it is basically the activity carried on petitioner is not a business, and it is basically used for residential purposes. And there is a perceptible difference between a hotel and a lodging or a student hostel. And they give the reference of various Supreme Court judgments and the High Court judgment also, Mother Superior and others, while interpreting the exemption notification. And again, the court has dwelt under the entire thing, the meaning of residence, what is a residence and what is a residential dwelling. And it is referred to the education guide also, wherein the normal parlance test was considered, that what is a residential dwelling, though it is not defined, but it is something where there is but it is something that the residential accommodation but not a temporary one. It is some permanent citizen, not like a hostel, hotel, motel, etc. And they have referred to the dictionary meaning of the term residence also and gone into the entire thing and decided this is a residential dwelling only. That is a point. So is the first, the issues which are arising out of this is the first thing is that suppose when this arrangement was a suppose this Thagar, Vasudev, Amrish had charged GST. Now that the court has held that it is an exempt supply and you have no GST is to be paid, but suppose they had charged GST. So whether that ITC which you are claimed for the outward supply, whether that will be denied since it is an outward supply. So that is the first question. So here, as you know that under section 17 of the CGST Act, if the input credit is directly related to the exempt supply, there is no ITC available. So here it is, though it is, there was a advance ruling in, advance ruling was in the favor of the revenue and they had said GST is payable. So suppose they have paid it, whether they can say that the ITC will be denied to them or and whether they can claim the refund also. So that all things have arisen here. So I was discussing with sir talked about this rule 5B of the Central Excise Act.
I'll just intervene here for a second. It's a very interesting aspect.
Yes.
Before I go to particular query now, let's see what are the implications of this particular judgment now. This judgment interprets a particular entry in the notification. And the notification says that a particular service are exempted. What is exempted? Services by way of renting of residential dwelling for use as a residence. So they say, I mean, this property, if it is used for a residence dwelling or for use as a residence, the two conditions they have put there on. The whole question here is that whether this condition has to be satisfied by the recipient only or any subsequent person. There's a far-reaching implication of this. If you remember, there is a concept of subcontracting. Okay, I am the main contractor. Government has given me contract. I am the main contractor. I subcontract to Raj. Now there is an exemption that if that activity is done for the say this activity amount for the say construction of dam now, or canal or whatever it is now. I am only intermediate because I am not doing anything. I simply get a contract to subcontract. The question here is that this exemption which is available for construction of a dam full, which he is doing it, I am not doing it. He will get exemption, no doubt about it. Will I also get exemption? So in this judgment, what they say, there is no particular word. I think if you compare 2 or 3 entering the same exemption notification, 11 or 12 of 2017, whatever the CT is, Central Taxation. Somewhere it is given services by whom, or I mean, whether this condition has to be met by the recipient or by the provider or by whom. When it is a blank, it says services by way of. So ultimately, if that particular activity resulting into provision of that particular service, exemption will be available, even though that particular condition is getting satisfied with third person.
Yes.
In this case, this particular Ambrish or whatever this thing, the 4 people have come together only. They have given the building to second company. A second company has given on the rent to student. Let's take example a little further. The second person has not done anything. He has given sub renting to third company. Okay. And the third company is really given to student. But of course, there is in the agreement between suppose A is the landlord, B is the in-between person, and C is the last company which is really giving on rent to the student only. Now, if there is a specific condition between A and B, this building will be used only and only for the purpose of renting for the student purpose, whatever, hostel purpose. Okay. In that case, whether the B will get an exemption. Are you getting my point now?
Yes.
If we go by the interpretation of this judgment, yes, B will also get the exemption.
Yes.
Because the contract between A and B specifically says, and which is not violated. B is not violating because B is ultimately given to C. C is fulfilling it also. So in that case, he will get a. So always there was always a debate. In my example, A, B, and C, whether B will get or not. This judgment shows B should get it.
Cross services.
If you remember in the centralized side, there used to be a an exemption. If any goods are supplied, that time the sold or removed, whatever the excise word calls, for the purpose of some project which is done by, say, ADB, Asian Development Bank, or United Nations, etc., 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 etc. Okay, use based basically. So in that case, that particular sale was exempted in the central excise law. It will invariably it was happening that manufacturer X was manufacturing suppose pipe for the purpose which goes for irrigation project, which is funded by ADB, which is otherwise covered by the notification. ADB does give an essentiality certificate that yes, this particular pipes are eligible because it's going to be used for irrigation project approved by Government of India. But what was happening? It was used by the municipality, and there is a contractor, and there is this is a manufacturer. Here the municipality, and there is a contractor. The manufacturer was selling to the contractor. Contractor is not using for that purpose only. So there were judgments also there. Considering that judgment, they have not this Honorable Karnataka High Court has not referred to. But I'm still saying, there the courts have held to is still the second person which will also get the benefit. But if the notification says this particular condition has to be satisfied by the recipient only, then you don't get it. So this is the one major thing you have to give. This judgment is a far-reaching implication. This is residential thing, small thing I'm telling you. It's a far-reaching implication. The first point I want to highlight on this point. Second is saying that this judgment is used that how the municipality has classified this particular property. It says for residential. The municipality is levying the tax, the property tax, considering as a residential property and not a commercial property. So this also, it means the courts have taken into account how a particular thing is taken by another department, another government. So this can become basis for you arguing cases, some other cases also. There is two important aspects about this now. Coming to the point raised here is that this company might have paid the GST, and while paying the GST, they might have utilized the ITC on various inputs now. So now it is held by that court that this activity is not liable to GST. Whether the ITC availed by this person, will it be disturbed? That's the whole question now. I'll tell you, there was Section 5B was introduced in 2008 in Central Excise Act. And I was the person who introduced that, so I know the whole background of this. Okay. But in Central Excise, it's going to happen a number of times. I used to happen that latest High Court, Supreme Court will decide that particular activity does not amount to manufacture, not liable to Central Excise. The department will have two-way action now. Very interesting. First, they will say that Senvet credit availed by the manufacturer, you can't claim. Rule 6, if you remember Senvet credit rules, yes. And now you have Section 17 equivalent to that in CGST Act. So you as a manufacturer, you are not entitled to the Senvet credit because your output exempt. Second, what will happen? As I mentioned earlier time also in the earlier case study, the buyer of that goods, department will say that even though tax has been paid, but he was not liable to be paid tax. It was exempt. So you have taken the credit, the buyer of that manufacturer, you can't take the credit. So the double whammy, triple whammy. Okay. So we were thinking this is unnecessary litigation going on, unnecessarily high court. And but you're hitting the fellow like anything now. Uska Senvet mana karoge, and his customer will tell them, no, department raising a demand against me. Pay me. Kahan se lagaya? We go back, I mean, finish with that. So then, in order to take care of that, and judgments are pending, tribunal judgment, something born against, something in favor. So in order to set up this thing, we introduce Section 5B in Central Excise Act, make it very clear. If any activity is held to be not amounting to manufacture or not amounting to liable of excise duty, in that case, two things will happen. ITC availed by him will not be disturbed, and ITC availed by his customer will not be disturbed. That's what section we introduced it. And but there, the government will notify under the section the other communities. Okay. Okay. Power was kept. In my proposal that time was that why do you go open? Once it is held, it should be open. It will no. Let us the power be kept with the government. So then it was something notification likha tha tum logon ne.
By notification.
मैं special notification refer to ये वाला. ठीक है ना? But now coming back to our question, which is exactly same question now. Okay, but you have put Rajas put there only. There is no such provision made in the GST law. So what will happen? My view is very clear. in the past also in the context of central excise and service tax, there were enough number of judgments were there. If the government or the department has accepted the tax paid by a person, okay, then they can't revert back and tell them, no. I took the tax that time I was right. And today, I'm lucky on the output supply when they paid the tax, it was correct. And you send back ITC available is also correct. But today, because this activities have to be non-taxable, I will not allow the tax. No, that courts have held very clearly. So they're not to worry. I mean, there may be action. I'm not saying that, but not to worry. There are a couple of judgments on this issue there. So his ITC availed by this person should not be. I mean, not be disturbed. I will say may not be disturbed. Department of Justice, but legally we are on sound for
ITC credit is to mitigate that double taxation.
Yeah, logic is very simple. And government has taken the money, no.
Yes.
Either let the government give a refund, okay.
Yes.
Okay, I will reverse my credit. Give me refund upon that. But problem is that my time period is over now. That's the whole issue. So logic is any issue.
Anyone over here in GST, sir? Could someone take a stand that even if let's say you're putting that this is wrong ITC availed by me, I was not eligible, I've been issued this is self-assessment regime and all these things. Okay, whatever wrong ITC I have taken, if anything, somewhere in the rules can we find something on the front that whatever wrong ITC is to be taken is to be added back to your output tax liability. I remember there is some provision in the rules on that front. So it's as good as added to my output tax liability, what I've paid is used to my ITC only. Net effect is zero.
By net effect zero.
So let's say I've taken 80 rupees worth of ITC over here. Okay.
Logic, right?
80 rupees worth of ITC. And it is held my output tax liability of 90 rupees was not payable at all.
You are not going to get refund for 90 rupees. 90 rupees will not be given refund suo moto to you.
No, not suo moto, sir. I'm trying to put forth that the 90 rupees now shown by me is basically nothing but 80 rupees of my reversal of ITC, which is added to my output tax. And 10 rupees what I paid in cash as a claim refund over me that. Subject to unjust enrichment.
That you are talking about general impact of this, this action of declaring that particular non-taxable. But where is the provision in the law for going to getting back 90 rupees from the government? Where is the legal provision?
So I cannot pay 90 rupees from the government. That is very clear. I can claim at the most my cash portion subject to unjust enrichment.
No, but how would you get 10 rupees given? Where is the legal provision for that? Where is the legal provision allowed to take refund of 10 rupees given?
No, if he has made an application within the limitation period.
If the limitation period is there.
So even would the limitation period apply in the Article 265?
Yeah. I mean, Mafatlal in the constitutional bench is wanted. That's the next question is coming now.
3 years from the cause of action.
वो भी मुश्किल है. I mean, this is a contrary judgment of this. He's coming. We are coming to that. Next question.
So I think on this first question, we are very clear that the ITC will not be disturbed.
Even if disturbed, we have got a good ground to fight.
Good fighting ground. Next is little slight change in the case study. The question is that will this judgment apply to the student hostel run by the charitable trust which are claiming exemption under the entry 12 of the notification 12 of 2017, that 1,000 rupees per day exemption. Okay. So whether this judgment will apply to that cases also, because see now what has happened. You look at the sorry, it is entry number 14, not 12. Sorry, this is a mistake. So entry number 14 of the notification 12. So that earlier notification entry said that services by way of hotel, in guest house, campsite, by whatever name called for residential or lodging purposes, having a value of supply or unit of accommodation below or equal to 1,000 rupees per day or equivalent. So that was exempt. Now that has been omitted with effect from 18th of July 2017. So all the hostels, etc., were claiming the exemption under this notification because there was a CBIC circular also on this, that they had clarified that you should claim exemption under this entry number 14. And a lot of advanced rulings also had given the view that this will be covered under entry number 14, all the hostels, etc. All the advanced ruling had given this view that you go by entry number 14. Now this entry number 14 has been deleted, means that has been deleted. And subsequently the rate notification in that also that the up to 1,000 to 7,000, that also that omission has happened and it is subject to GST also. So whether we can say that whether the hostels based on this judgment that they were basically considered as a residential dwelling only, and they could have taken the exemption under the entry number 12 of the notification, that is the services by way of renting of residential dwelling for use as residence from beginning and not after this. Though up to 1,000 rupees they were claiming, but there is no mention of the entry number. So whether though it was exempt, now again same, we rely on this judgment and say it is a residential dwelling only, and we continue the exemption and not pay tax. That is the one thing.
Raj, can I come here for the minute, because I am facing this issue in my one of the client.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Number one, when there were two exemption entries, I have a choice of going to the exemption entry, which I feel is more specific or more, this thing. So I was taking this as an, accommodation, short-term accommodation, and I am claiming exemption of 1,000 rupees earlier, correct? But now that entry is deleted. The entry which is still on the statute book is that residential accommodation, the residential dwelling for a residential purpose, it is still, that exemption entry is there up to 1,000, that exemption entry is there. I don't think I am being prevented simply because earlier I have taken some exemption under some other entry. Now I cannot take the exemption under this entry. I am very clear that there cannot be the law, if on the date of claiming the exemption entry, if I am falling under one particular specific entry, so I should be able to get it. That is the first thing. Now, secondly, as far as this judgment is concerned, this, Karnataka High Court, as Sushil sir has said very clearly, they have gone for two aspects, two prerequisites. Whether the building is a residential building as per the BMC records or not. And second is, it is whether used for the residence. I think the second part is not an issue because ultimate usage is by the students for a fairly long period. It's not a very short-term accommodation. So residence test is being met. The only thing is this, because I am having this, one of the, in my client's case, these hostel buildings are being assessed as a commercial property. Hello. And even the electricity meter and other thing, or water connection and all the things are coming at a commercial rate. So I think the factual aspect will play more important role. Municipality record, how your building is getting assessed. If you are getting assessed as a commercial property, then this exemption will not be able to claim it. Or maybe commercial, it may be coming as a residential property, but the electricity meter and water bill, if they are coming as for a commercial usage, then also we have some more irritation for claiming this exemption. I think these are my views on this particular query of yours. Yeah, Raj, I'm through with my submission.
Thank you so much. So here, what you said, the residential dwelling, that needs to be seen. What is a residential dwelling? And I think in the judgment also they have dealt with this aspect of residential dwelling. What is a residential dwelling? And in the Karnataka High Court judgment also, that the word "what is a residential dwelling" has been mentioned, and it does not talk about the angle of the this commercial or the. It talks about which is other than the hotel, motel, inn, guest house, which is meant for temporary purpose. And though it on the BBMP point that the Municipal Corporation of Bangalore, that they have talked about that it is classified as a residential category under the residential category, but it does not talk about the commercial or the residential, how the electricity or all those things are there. So only from the residential dwelling perspective, if we see whether it is a residential dwelling, again that plan may be a relevant thing, but if it is as a residential dwelling, means it is used for residential purpose only, and like in hostel, all those things, I feel it can get covered over there also, but still that gray area is there that we need to see on that angle. But
Raj, property assessment, the property assessment tax, that will be very important criteria, because that will decide whether your building is a commercial building or it is a residential building. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And perhaps each municipality will have the different set of rules. You cannot, as Solanki sir has rightly said, you have to go by the facts of the case. Maybe the Bombay Municipal Corporation may have the separate rules of assessment of the building than the Bengaluru Municipal Corporation. Yeah.
But whether you require an hotel license for this?
Hostel.
You don't require the hotel license. You don't. See, please understand, these services were not for the hotel accommodation. These services were for the short-term accommodation. The dispute was whether hostel staying is a short-term accommodation or it's a renting of a residential. That was the whole issue. And Karnataka High Court has really sorted out it. It is basically a, residential renting. It is not a short-term accommodation, which was covered by other entry.
Yeah. So that is one aspect. I will just highlight one more judgment of the Bombay Tribunal in the case of Sneha Girls Hostel. It's a Bombay Tribunal recent judgment. And in that, the issue before the tribunal was whether these hostels would get covered under the service tax. Similar entry, entry number 18. We talked about the hotel, guest house, club, campsite, or whatever name called for residential or temporary lodging purposes. And there it said it is covered under that entry also. The hostel will get covered under there because the word or like or that was mentioned here there. So the similar exemption will be getting covered there also. So there are contradictory things. One is it is getting covered under a hostel category also it is saying, and residential also. So
Raj, the law is very clear. If there are two, I am covered under two exemption entry, I can take the exemption of my choice. But our now question is, one exemption entry is gone. So now the remaining entry, whether in the remaining entry still I am covered or not, so the Karnataka High Court helps us,
Yes.
Yeah.
But here what happened? They allowed the benefit under the dwelling residence?
No, sir. That hotel, guest house, usme entry.
Less than 1,000.
Yes.
See, my views, I think even the CBIC has issued a clarification. Such hostels are covered by that entry of the hostels, hotels, inns, etc., having the daily rate of less than 1,000 rupees. I think that was a wrong clarification because these hostels are not, you can't put the same category as hotels or inns or guest houses because all these things are for a temporary purposes only. And this staying in the hostel for long-term purposes. I mean, students stay for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years only. So very frankly, CBSE wanted to, give benefit, but they use the wrong, line of argument. So that's my view. That's agreement. I mean, that clarification is not correct by the CBIC, but this Karnataka High Court judgment is very, very clear. And so they have gone by the word of dwelling and residence, what they have gone in detail. So therefore, it is, in my view, is covered. The secondary argument of the municipality plan in Karnataka or Bangalore, declaring as residence or not residence or property tax lot, these are all subsidy to ancillary issue. The main issue, as long as our activity is covered by the main entry, this is more important. My view is that.
Raj, one more.
Yeah.
And Raj, sorry, one more thing. After this amendment, post 47 GST Council meeting, I'm talking of your, that earlier case of your Karnataka High Court, wherein a commercial entity had taken this on the rent and then they have let it out, correct? So your owner was exempted from paying the tax. But now in the same scenario, after 18 July 2022, your owners will not be able to claim this exemption. Am I right, Raj?
No, why
No,
not?
sir.
Why not?
Because that entity is a registered entity. Hello. Because the company who had taken the property on the rent, please understand, your owners are there at the first stage. The property taken by an entity which is a registered person, registered business entity. So once you are a registered business entity and you've taken the residential accommodation on the rent, the renting exemption does not apply to you to the first stage. So at that stage, your owners, this, your co-owners, where there are 4 co-owners, they will have to charge the GST to the entity who is taking. And now entity giving it to the students, it will still be covered under the exemption entry. But in that case, whatever is a charge by the owners to them, that will become cost to the business entity.
But Naresh bhai, what Sushil sir has mentioned, if you are in the agreement itself, it will mention this particular will be given for an hostel to a student. Maybe that in that scenario,
Bhavin bhai, now there is very specific provision in the law now after 47th amendment. If you see that exemption entry, which is giving the reason, except where the renting is done to the registered person. So registered person cannot, if the now it is a qua recipient, it is not qua end user. Now that exemption entry is having the dual distinct condition, 3 conditions. First, the building should be a residential building. Second, it should be ultimately used for the residence. And third condition, that recipient should not be a registered person. If recipient is a registered person, then taxability arises. So that exemption entry itself, see, the Raj has put it on the the screen also. So 18 July 2022, this particular Karnataka High Court wala jo case hai, which was giving benefit to the landowner, letting the property to the business entity, will now go.
Yes, sir. Yeah, if I may, Naresh bhai, come into play over here.
Yeah.
The hostel, who's the lessee giving services of hostel to the students, would it be covered by this entry clause because students are unregistered?
It's about first leg. He's talking about first leg.
Oh, no, so I'll come to the first leg, sir.
That he says that covered.
It is covered. Okay, so now my services as a hostel to the students, it's exempted.
Yes.
And that till exemption. See, now that business entity giving it to student, you are still covered.
Allow me to put forth the entire point, sir. Now, since my output service as a postal service provider is exempted, am I required to register under GST under section 23?
Then come again, Sumit. I am not getting your question.
Provider, as a postal service provider, my output services, my output business is exempted. Am I required to be registered under 23? By after this Karnataka High Court judgment, before taking the property on rental as a postal service provider, I'll just select registration stating my output services are exempted from GST, and under section 23, I'm no longer required to be registered as exclusive exempt service provider. And by virtue of that, I'll become an unregistered person, and thereby
then the exemption continues. Hello.
What he's saying, otherwise, if you become unregistered, but Naresh bhai is pointing, in case you remain as registered, then what?
He's given a solution. I think Sumit is right.
No, but provided he has no other service.
So if he has got another service, that becomes a bigger challenge over there.
Yeah. Hello, Sumit. Jo itna bada means very honestly, this hostel business has become such a big business. So usually that entities are already registered or getting registered because they have certain other obligations of paying the tax under RCM and everything. Not only this, but so many other taxes. So practically this kind of entities will be registered. If it is unregistered, then that exemption will still be available.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sir, here that what you are saying, sir, there's a reverse charge notification also which has come in, wherein if the person who is availing the service of residential dwelling is registered, then under reverse charge that person has to pay the tax.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling. Ne? Yeah.
So basically, the postal service provider will pay it under reverse charge and put it as a cost because his output service.
Yeah, it will become the cost. This has become big problem now. Yeah.
So the Thagar Vasudev, irrespective of whether he is registered or unregistered,
yeah,
he will collecting the tax. The person who is availing that the 12
yeah,
that
yeah. They have to pay the tax. Yeah.
Under reverse.
Yeah.
So one point.
Provided they are registered.
Yeah.
Whether suppose Karnataka High Court says it is exempted, but it is his choice to avail the exemption or not to avail the exemption. So whether he can charge a GST to the student.
No, there is a section 11 which specifically says if your service is wholly exempt, then you cannot collect.
No, exemption notification is always a beneficial notification. So So in that case, there should be an option to you to avail or not to avail.
No, that option not there. Remove it.
That option is not given in the GST.
Section 11.
GST. This condition, what was there in section 5 of central access service is exactly same condition.
Same condition we got here. Yeah, sir.
यहाँ पर है.
11.
I think Raj, you have to Jara slightly rush faster because this you have another 4 case studies to complete, boss.
ठीक है.
So the next page is on the ancillary services, that housekeeping, food, Wi-Fi, etc. If the services are optional and separately charged, then whether GST will apply in this case. As we said, it was part of the package. But it is, if an option is given or separately charged, then I think in such a case, GST will apply. That view has to be taken. It is not because that option is given to the student whether they want to avail it or not avail it. Not in the normal course of business. That optional thing is there or separate charge is there. So in that case, that GST might apply. But here again, the definition of composite supply and mixed supply will have to be seen. That whether these 2 or more supplies are supplied in combination, naturally bundled, and consumption will be taken in ordinary course of business. So again, that will play. But my view is that if separately, if it is there, then an option is given to the student, then GST will apply. Any other?
So I have a counter over here. While I principally come with your view, sir, this optional thing, when we say it's an option to me, so student, when I'm availing hostel service, I can avail standalone hostel service without housekeeping and food and Wi-Fi, no issues. But when I'm putting this as an optional thing, so shouldn't this also, housekeeping, food, Wi-Fi, should be available standalone without the hostel services? Like in a hotel, I can go and eat in a restaurant. My room may be charged at 18%. My restaurant, whatever I'm walking in over there, could be charged at 5%. Okay, but that restaurant is also available to walk-in guests. Anyone can come without accommodation, so we can use this thing. Over here, this could always be an additional service, but not an independent service altogether.
Basically, what you are seeing, there are 2 separate services. One is only hostel, and one is hostel with so and so.
Yes.
These are 2. So
hotel, bed and breakfast.
It is like renting a premises along with the fixtures and furniture or standalone.
Without the fixture furniture.
The statement should be that the fixture furniture.
Yes.
Supreme Court has held that the principle.
Because I am not engaged in the business of giving standalone housekeeping, food, Wi-Fi. Some counting cannot come and say, "Are aapka Wi-Fi log passport 1 घंटे क्या charge दे दो."
But I think this appears to be more of a theoretical question, because in no hostel they would say that housekeeping is an optional service.
Food is optional.
Not in all Wi-Fi and this.
Wi-Fi and all, not for Wi-Fi. Wi-fi and housekeeping are standard charges.
Whatever is required to keep the property upkeep and working.
Yes.
Has to be there. Housekeeping and
only food is one thing that is optional based on consumption.
Therefore, I would believe that hostel service is much more than merely giving a renting service. I think it inclines more towards the accommodation service, because when you look at the renting entry, you are purely giving a space for the purpose of renting. But when you come to hostel, there is much more than renting. So as rightly mentioned, there is housekeeping which is happening, food services are given, Wi-Fi is given. So there are many more elements to say that this inclines more towards the accommodation entry, because this is not purely renting service. This is my
good.
So I think that everything will depend upon how do you project your service basically. In the same hostel, there can be 3 packages. One package only room 5,000 per month. Second package room with food 7,000 rupees. Third package can be something more else, whatever. Even though in this package, even though the charges are shown separately, that's not going to make any difference. How it is shown the invoice, that's not relevant basically. But yes, if there is something like this, you take cost. You have the choice of hostel, stay, plus food. They say okay, 7,000 plus. You can take food by paying 2,000 extra. But suppose there is a condition that if you don't eat for more than 15 days, then I will charge only 6,000. Such condition will go into greater problem. So either you fix amount 5,000 one package, 7,000 second package, 10,000 Because if you see legally, what is composite supply definition says? Composite supply means a supply. A supply consisting of more than one taxable supplies.
Two or more,
whatever the wordings are there. Okay. Where is this? If you see the mixed supply, that doesn't talk about a supply. It's always say mixed supply is a supply of two or more individual services. So in the case of, if you want to put your case in composite supply, it has to be a supply. So initial, when you have a contact with the hostel fellow, it has to be combined one supply. We can't say कि नहीं मैं खाना खाऊंगा लेकिन नहीं खाऊंगा 50% refund करूंगा. That can't. You make a one full package and go about it. So a supplies is very, very important word. So that you have to set.
Something like convention, sir. I'm giving you a package thing. There are multiple components, but it's I am selling you a package. Package.
I rightly made a point.
Yeah. Sorry. Next.
Yeah. So the last question is on the there was a single agreement, and if the GST has to be charged, then how that thing will happen? Every lessor will issue an invoice or proportionate share, or the one lessor will issue invoice for the entire amount, and the other will raise on the other will raise on the primary lessor, or they form an AOP and then issue invoice if GST is payable on this. So that was the practical, because the property was combined and given to the this thing.
I think this front each lessor should issue a separate invoice for their proportion, because if I am not mistaken, sir, there are a couple of judgments on this renting property in service tax era in a different context for threshold exemption available to each landlord. Whereby if there were two landlords and the total rent for the property was amounting to 15-18 lakhs, I think there are a couple of judgments of the Mumbai tribunal also, whereby both the landlords individually were entitled to that threshold exemption of 10 lakhs. So when the law is itself, or the courts are trying to assess both these persons individually, I am eligible only for 50% share, he is eligible for 50% share. So I should be invoicing for my own proportion, especially when the agreement is demarcating what is the rent that is payable to my bank account, what is the rent payable to my co-owner's bank account, or so on and so forth.
I think in the query, whether this particular property, they are a joint owner or they are independent owner of the flat, and they have
independent owner and they have pulled
it together. Okay.
So they are not joint owner.
No.
This is very important.
Floors are there.
So another question is, see, you don't have a choice whether you form an AOP, whether you are AOP or whether you are not an AOP. First, we require to decide that.
And then they are having the one combined agreement.
Yes, combined agreement.
Agreement is joint agreement with them. All the four people have come together. It will be AOP only.
No. I beg to differ. By having a single agreement doesn't mean it is an AOP. So there has to be some joint venture, some activity has to be there. But here, what they do, they have given rented the premises through a joint agreement. Independent, they are having own flat. Even they are having a jointly also, because there are Supreme Court judgments, even co-owners are an owner. So here, what they are giving a rented, yes. If suppose the second party is there who is giving rental, if they have come together, they maybe say 4 or 5 people are coming together and then they are doing some activity. Then they be considered to make a profit out of that, doing some activity. So in my opinion, it is not an AOP. And accordingly, what I think Sumit has mentioned,
separately.
Yes, that is only medium of rent collection. Yeah.
इसमें पक्की चंद गुलाल का जजमेंट है जॉइंट ओनरशिप कम्युनिटी ऑफ इंटरेस्ट कम्युनिटी ऑफ इंटरेस्ट है
Sir, we move to the case study 4 first, then we'll come back to 3. So case study 4 is on ocean freight, the Mohit Minerals case. As all of us are aware of the facts, in the Mohit Mineral case, the Mohit Minerals had imported certain coal, non-cooking coal from Indonesia, and they had imported this on CIF basis. There was a notification, there's a notification 10 of 2017, which says that in case of CIF contracts on the ocean freight component, the importer has to pay GST under reverse charge. The matter was under the Gujarat High Court. Gujarat High Court said the notification is ultra vires the provision which says recipient, importer is not recipient, therefore just shut down. Then Government of India challenged in the Supreme Court. Supreme Court though concurred with the Gujarat High Court, but they give us more detailed reasoning on this. They said that this CIF contract of import is a composite supply, with the principal supply being import of goods, and therefore by virtue of Section 8, the principal supply GST will apply on the principal supply, and therefore on the entire value once GST is applied, you cannot again levy a charge on the service component on the considering it as separate service, and therefore they said that this is the violating, if there is a separate levy for the importer as a service, this is violating Section 8 of the CGST Act. And again, the Supreme Court had observed that the decisions or the recommendation of the council are not binding, only have persuasive value. So here there are few questions on this, that whether this contract of import of goods is a composite supply or it is a single supply, and what are the ratio led by the apex court is correct, or the separate view or reasoning, whatever given is this. Yeah. So again, the provisions of Section 5(3) notification, etc. are there. Here the composite and mixed supply also is there. Provisions are there. So here the point wanted to note is that whether there are two supplies in question can be a composite supply. There are two supplies in this. One is a supply of goods by the foreign exporter to the Indian importer. That is one supply of goods. Then there is a supply of transportation service by the foreign shipping line to the foreign exporter. It is a CIF contract, so the service is not being provided to the Indian importer. So there are two separate persons, two separate recipients, two separate contracts. Can these both be considered as a composite supply? Because a composite supply says that two or more taxable supplies or of goods or services which are naturally bundled and supplied in conjunction with each other. Whether there is a conjunction in this, that the goods and the transportation service, that we need to see. That is one point on the composite supply thing. So though it is in favor of the SSE, there might be other ramifications of this on this. Sir, on the IGST, you wanted to?
I think this judgment has been debated a lot basically. With due respect to the Supreme Court, yes. I mean, what happens sometimes, even the counsel for the taxpayer to assess, they try to take some argument, sometimes weird argument, I will use the word. And sometimes the courts, do agree with those arguments, and that's create the whole problem. The Gujarat High Court has given the judgment that Section 5(3), subsection 3, and 9(3), it says that government can, notify certain goods and services where the liability will be on the recipient. Reverse charge liability will be recipient of that goods or service. A simple law. Gujarat High Court has simply gone, because similar controversies are written in the case of service tax also. Service tax action was there, the different wordings were there. Yes. There the reverse charge provision was where the reverse charge liability can be put on any person, not only recipient. Simple controversy. Gujarat High Court might be gone very simply that yes, the importer in India is not recipient of that freight services or transport services. So your notification issued for reverse charge is ultra vires of the provisions of the Section 5(3) and 9(3). The simple 9(3), I mean IGST Act, it's a good judgment. But they have made, since as I was telling, sometimes you can become greedy. So the counsel for the taxpayer has put this argument of composite supply also. And perhaps his intention was something else. His intention was the double taxation issue. On the freight component, custom duty is already paid. So please don't charge the double taxation. But he thought that there can be double taxation in the indirect taxes aspect. Sorry, what we discussed there. So he thought he will lose out the case on that. So he brought this concept to company supply. Unfortunately, when the matter went to Supreme Court, on the main ground that the importer is not a recipient, Supreme Court reversed the judgment of Gujarat High Court, and they said, no, we don't agree with this judgment. What they said that in the place of provision that Section 13 of IGST Act, in the case of transportation of goods, they've given where the goods, destination of the goods, that became a place of supply. Okay, goods are moving from England to India, so India is the place of profit, is the place of supply basically. As per that, since the goods are coming to India, okay, and then there is a definition of recipient of goods or services. The three categories they have given: if the amount is paid, consideration is paid, the person who is paying the money, the recipient, then one more, and third is that if the no money is paid, when the no consideration is paid, then it is the what the given there? Something I forgot it. A recipient of service. Okay. Okay, the location of that person will be relevant. Now, how to interpret recipient of service here? The common sense, the recipient of actual who is receiving service. Yet the court said, no, I don't agree on this point. Here, the recipient, the service of transportation is coming as a part of the goods. And goods are coming to India, and goods are coming to importer. So he is recipient of service of that transportation service also. It's a convoluted argument, yes. Raised by the ASC and accepted by the court. So Supreme Court said, no, I don't agree with the High Court judgment. So to that extent, we don't agree. Then they came to the next argument of this double taxation. Then the question of the composite service came. Ultimately, the composite service, they say, under the IGST Act, there is a concept of composite service, and this is a composite supply, composite supply, where the goods and services are coming together only. So the tax has been paid. So you cannot put a second tax on that on the same item under the same law, and the same provision of Section 9. How can it go the double tax? Indirectly, they put it. So they ultimately say that notification issue is ultra vires provision of 9(3). They did not put so many words. That's the intention, not the ultra vires of Constitution. This is the whole story of the whole thing. My views are very, very different, I'm telling you. IGST is paid on the goods imported by virtue of what legal provision? Section 5 of IGST Raj has put there. There's a proviso which says the IGST on goods imported in India shall be levied and collected in accordance with provision of Section 3 of CTA, Custom Tariff Act, and value determined under the said Act as a Custom Tariff Act at the point when the duties of custom levied and so and so under Section 12 of Customs Act. It says very clearly that your IGST is levied and collected both, not on levy. Levy is also coming here, collection is also coming here in terms of Section 3 of Custom Tariff Act. If you go to Custom Tariff Act, okay, it says in addition to the basic custom duty, there will be levy of within Section 3, there's subsection 7 and 8 in the Custom Tariff Act, where the levy of this IGST has been provided. Earlier we used to have CBD, which was equivalent to excise duty. Exactly that provision there. There they have given that when a person import the goods, he will be also liable to pay the duty equivalent to the excise duty, or now it is a tax equivalent to GST on the same imported goods. That's the nutshell story of the 3(7) basically. And then they've given the what value also. That subsection 3 also subsection 7 of Section 3 of Custom Tariff Act. It says the value will be as per Section 14 of the Custom Tariff Act. And the specific situation like warehousing, etc., they made separate provision. Here, my question is very simple. IGST on imported goods is levied and collected in terms of provisions of the Custom Tariff Act. For that purpose, can you bring or borrow some definition of concept from IGST Act? My view is not. The equating their composite supply for the custom purposes is totally unwarranted. This is my personal view. I mean, I may be wrong also in this way. Because that's why in my initial remark, I mentioned this is going to be a very serious implication of this particular finding of this court. Today, they are talking composite supplies. Tomorrow, it can be a mixed supply. I'm saying you, a person is importing two parts. Forget about goods and services. Two things together only. Okay. And out of that, one item is carrying the highest rate of duty. What you will do? There is going to be a contradiction between the mixed supply definition of rules of interpretation and the Custom Tariff Act. The rules of interpretation, if the two or more things comes together, the principal nature of supply, etc., will be applicable there. On one side, the rules of interpretation is there of the custom tariff. You have mixed supply. Supreme Court says that you go by the composite supply. It means you borrow definition from IGST Act. You're gone. My view is a very, very incorrect view of it taken that you borrow certain concepts from the GST law for interpretation of your customs law. That's my first observation on this judgment is there, and it's going to be very serious implication. Tomorrow, departmental officer can use the judgment anywhere, wherever they want it. It's going to be really serious. So this is my first, observation on this. Sometimes counsel from the taxpayer become a little more greedy, and there is some unnecessary argument. And this argument, my personal view, that created this whole problem. Okay. And even the first argument, of course, Supreme Court's view there, I don't want to comment much. I mean, perhaps Bombay, the Gujarat High Court was on the much correct. Otherwise, tomorrow, they've used this one, logic there, the rule section 2 of any of the definition section. It says wherever the context otherwise required. They've used that particular, thing for the purpose of interpretation. But I'll put it other way around. When they've discussed this, the definition of consideration, when I was saying it also, recipient, there the recipient is the actual recipient, not the recipient as per the definition what you're talking about there. So I think it's an ulta ho gaya pura jaakar. They could have gone by the real normal meaning. They've gone by the legal meaning of that, given the act also there. So that was the first point now. Let's come back to the query. I have one more point, but time is very short. I'm not going. So what was the first query? Is that ratio let down the customers is correct? Is it a single supply? My view is that, you don't require this concept of compulsory supply for assessment for payment of IGST under the customs. Yes. My view is very simple. I mean, it's around this. Without this concept, so for the last so many years, I mean, they have been everyone has been paying tax. Nobody has thought about compulsory supply. Nobody has raised this point. Why suddenly this has come up? I mean, at least somebody would have raised the point. Why you are charging the tax on the value of services in addition to the value of the goods? Because the customs law, they made a specific provision of what is to be and all your services, whether it's insurance, it is freight, your technical know-how, the condition of sale, everything they put there. Valuation. So there was a specific law for taking care of the value of services to be added in the value of the goods. Now you are undoing all this provision now by saying no, nothing to do with that. I'm going to compulsory supply because GST has brought a concept of a compulsory supply. So my view is a little different on this.
So in the next question,
yeah, please.
So can the refund be claimed if IGST on the ocean freight is already paid and protest is not registered, and whether the principle of unjust enrichment will apply in such cases? So your refund, this scenario might come where the outward supplies are entirely exempt, means entirely under exemption, like a grain trader or something like that in the market, the grain market, etc. And they have paid the GST on the ocean freight, and now this they have not taken the input credit and they have not registered the protest also that they are paying under protest. So whether they have accepted it. So now whether they can claim the refund, and if the payment was done in 17-18, the judgment has come in 2022. Supreme Court has decided that judgment, that whether the time limit also we need to see whether the time limit of 2 years will apply in that cases or not, because I have to file the refund within 2 years. And
so Limitation Act, if it is not a tax, the Limitation Act applies. Yeah. From the cause of action.
Yes. So the protest is not registered. So under protest nahi kiya hai, and accept kar liya hai, and Supreme Court has now said ki nahi, abhi it was not payable. Whatever the reason.
So it is not a tax.
Yeah.
It was not payable, but they have not exactly put this unconstitutional. Yes. They have not put it that way. They have not used Mapala directly over there.
As on date, it is not a tax, but when you had paid it as a tax.
Yes.
So now when you are claiming a refund, you are claiming refund of the tax.
But if it is proved it is not a tax, then it amounts to deposit. Suppose you have paid a deposit not as a tax. Now it is held, it is a tax. So it remains. What has been held will be that will be defined.
This is a very controversial area. I'll tell you. You see, Mafatla, the judgment. That judgment has made in one particular paragraph. Even if a levy is declared to be, except the case of unconstitutional. If it's unconstitutional, of course, then everything you don't apply anything. Other than unconstitutional, I still remember that the limitation will apply. Maybe 2 year or 3 year, maybe as per the limitation act now. This for the 1 point now. My view is simply, of course, in this case, if more than 2 years there, he can try to find the refund claim, but he will definitely be caught under unjust enrichment. So he must have expelled out this. He has not kept his receivable in his books of account 99.9999% on. Because in that case, what happened now?
How unjust enrichment?
I'll tell you what.
It is a reverse charge. He's paying the tax.
He's paying the tax, but he's recovering from his customer. Now, this is the unjust enrichment is such a big bogey, I'm telling you. If you expend on your expense out you're taken as expenditure in books of account, department will say that you have taken that a part of your cost.
The cost is passed on to the ultimate buyer.
It's a big problem, I'm telling you, very big. Unless you show it a receivable in your books of account, that money, this unjust enrichment is going to hound you till end. So anyway, the judgment, this answer can be either this way or that way. Yes, somebody can say that it has been declared ultra vires of the provision of the Act, CGST Act, not ultra vires of Constitution. You can try. There is some judgment in your favor, some against us. Effort can be made. But I can only say only one thing in future for all of our clients. Wherever we find that some doubt is there, pay the tax, file the refund claim, let the litigation go.
Keep it balanced.
Keep it in balance. That's very important. Keep it
in balance sheet.
Receivable as a books after receivable. Because there are judgments that even though this particular judgment they have declared as a ultra vires of the law, you are not a party to this. So there are judgments that it has been declared something not leviable does not mean you will get a benefit. You are not a party to list. You are not party to litigation. So to keep your case alive, file the refund claim, let depend reject it, 1 level, 2 level, keep filing, no problem.
Or at least write a letter of protest.
प्रोटेस्ट वाला कौन सा अभी प्रॉब्लम क्या हो रहा है कि अभी जीएसटी प्रोटेस्ट कॉन्टेस्ट है नहीं, बट स्टिल यू कैन डू. बट क्या होगा, क्लाइंट वही कैसे कहते हैं उस पे योर कॉस्ट इज ऑफ व्हाट फाइलिंग रिप्लाई, वी कीप लूजिंग इट, नो प्रॉब्लम, हम रिप्लाई फाइल करते रहेंगे जाकर के, ट्राइब्यूनल चले जाएंगे, फिर जीएसटी ट्राइब्यूनल में नहीं आया मान लो, आ जाएगा 5 साल, जब तक तो केस डिसाइड हो जाएगा आइदर. सो योर कॉस्ट इज वेरी मिनिमल टू द कॉस्ट ऑफ लिटिगेशन ऑन.
Yes.
But tomorrow, suppose somebody else wins in the High Court or Supreme Court, you get the entire benefit. Then you are party to list. Then you can claim the entire benefit. That's the
going forward. Still, do we need to pay this?
No.
In spite of the Supreme Court,
Because
there has been no
करना है.
acknowledgement by the GST council.
I'm just saying, in any other case where you have this sort of thing, advise the client, he doesn't want to take responsibility, big risk of a higher 18% interest liability. Okay, today he pays and gets a credit also, so loss क्या हो जाएगा. At least मान लो कि इंटरेस्ट भरा आपने जाकर, तो नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इसको इंटरेस्ट का इंटरेस्ट में पेनल्टी भरा तो क्या होता है. तो अगर आपने लिटिगेशन को ऑन रखा है, you can get refund of interest penalty, and if you're not taking the credit, suppose you can get back the main money. So this is the point what I want to highlight.
Normally, people has claimed the credit, I believe so.
People have claimed it. Understanding that my output was exempted, people have claimed it.
जैसे बता था कि जैसे वो ग्रेन वाला वगैरह उनके केस में हुआ है, they have not, or power plants are there.
Yes.
They were not excise.
Sir, but going forward, still the GST council has not acknowledged this to be levy, and there has been no communication from the government.
We don't require any communication. Supreme Court judgment is the law of the land. Any Supreme Court judgment is never, mentioned by the government that this we are accepting, not accepting.
It can be referred to a larger bench or something.
No, it can go for review. Larger bench will go when there is a difference of opinion. Otherwise, it won't go. Somebody can file review petition.
So a different case may at a later date go to a larger bench for consideration.
It can go.
Yes.
SRF
See, right now we are getting the credit, so whether to pay or not.
Not to pay.
Not to pay. अभी तो pay करना खत्म ही होगा. Next budget government is going to change it. They will change the 9(3). I'm saying.
Immediate.
Review.
PML.
What he says is subsequently. अभी ये तो review में गया. PML has gone for review. But what he's saying is subsequently after 5 or 7 years, can be referred to this judgment but not
Classic example for Indirect Taxes phone elevators. Supreme Court had given the judgment at one point of time, CBM bench unanimous decision. Later on reversed 4-1.
cess वाला नहीं था, cess education cess on exempted वाला.
Yes.
To the land.
नहीं SR पे nutrient and unicorn क्या नाम था आपका ये जगह. Whether in the area based exemption main tax was exempted. The whole question was that whether cess is also exempt or not exempt.
Sir, even royalty case, it is pending before 9 members.
So it can be referred back.
Kolhapur case हुआ.
तो उसमें जो last judgment मिला उसके बाद जो whoever the part of litigation they will get a benefit. So you must keep the litigation alive. Simple. My advice is that pay it.
Yes.
कीप इट, आप रिपोर्ट फाइल करो जाकर, कौन मना करता है? वो मना करेगा, एक बार दो बार करने दोस्तों, और आपका कॉस्ट भी लगेगा।
फर्स्ट अपील से मना होगा, उसका तो ट्रिब्यूनल फॉर्म ही नहीं हुआ, तब का लाइव वैसे भी रहेगा।
होगा तो क्या होगा, 2-4-5 लाख रुपए का खर्चा होगा एडवोकेट का, कंसल्टेंट का, बट दैट साइड इफ यू गेट द yes can be went for you. So next step.
So here the time limit on that, there was an amendment in Rule 89(1)(a), and that tool there was a time limit for the under the wrong head. If you are making the payment of tax under wrong head under 77 or 19(1), then that 2 years time limit was given. But now in this case there is no wrong payment under the wrong head. It is a entirely non-payment. It was not payable. So here whether that 2 years time limit will apply or not, that is a big question, because there is no specific mention that whether in case of a wrong, when the tax was subsequently held to be not payable, here only wrong head is given. IGST, CGST, the not payable case may, that is something that is.
That's why we told you that. Yeah, as is under of Constitution.
Yeah,
time limit will not be applicable. Other cases,
other than that, it will be.
It should be applicable.
Instead of 2 years, it will be 3 years under the mission.
अगर बड़ा amount है तो fight करो जाकर, पता नहीं मिल जाए आपको.
You never know.
It's a simple thing.
Yes.
There are contrary judgment on this point.
Yes.
Yeah, again on the interest and penalty under the proceedings, if already you have paid, then again you can take a chance for the refund here. That is, I think. Then this is a very important thing. Again, if GST is already paid and availed as ITC, can department disallow such claims? So we had discussed this in that earlier thing also. Here one thing is that under the service tax also there were judgments that if you have Bajaj Allianz, Bombay High Court and other cases where availing of certificate of wrongly paid service tax is equivalent to refund of the wrongly paid tax. So you can take a suo motu credit also. So if you have already taken credit and then subsequently the tax was held that it is not payable, then there is no, the department cannot raise a demand. It is allowed. That, but the department is not agreeing to it. Department is, a lot of cases are there in the tribunal, etc. So the next is if the government does a retrospective amendment in the law, whether interest will be attracted if they do a retrospective amendment. So here I just quickly, there is one judgment which is there in Star India's case, wherein Supreme Court judgment, when it was held that it is well established that while it is permissible for the legislature to retrospectively legislate, such retrospectivity is normally not permissible to create an offence retrospectively.
Yes.
So you cannot say an offence was created retrospectively, though you make an amendment. And again, the liability to pay interest would only arise on default and is really in the nature of quasi punishment. Such liability, although created retrospectively, could not entail the punishment of payment of interest with retrospective. So that is a Supreme Court decision made with various other tribunal decisions also on this. So if subsequently this retrospective amendment comes, maybe we can take a ground and
I think there's a social provision also over there that you cannot be penalized for something, an act which was not, penalty was not existing on that particular day. So if till the date of the amendment, the tax was not payable, there was no penalty for such a non-compliance. The compliance was not there.
They may amend, but prospect. Prospect is not a big issue because they know it's something that ITC मिलता था.
Yes.
वैसा कोई intentional किसी का नहीं था, not a big amount. चलिए ठीक.
Then this Supreme Court the observation on the recommended the binding nature of the recommendation of the council.
In detail they have given.
So the Rajya Sabha, they have filed a reply and they have said that the state and central governments, the decision, the recommendation of the councils are binding on the center and state. That is what they have given, and this judgment does not alter the position. So that detailed reply is given by the Honorable Minister of State of Finance Pankaj Chaudhary in Rajya Sabha recent the monsoon session only, and they said that this does not alter the position. So the council has vested upon the GST council the responsibility to make recommendations, and recommendations pertaining to GST laws are implemented through normal legislative process, and to that extent recommendations have persuasive value. However, state and central acts provide rate exemption rules would be prescribed only on the recommendation of the council, and therefore the recommendation of the council will, with respect to subordinated legislation, that is those related rules, notifications and rates, are binding. So only the GST council will recommend and then only you can do it. You cannot do it independently. That is what they say, and therefore it is binding. That is what the
Real comments.
चलिए, I think time बहुत ज़्यादा, we could have discussed in
yes.
ये particular section बनाने में इतना time लगा था कि it's the biggest problem constitutional amendment कम से कम 8 के 10 इसके बने हैं इसके different option. Because how to put the interest of both center and state, so it's बहुत मुश्किल है. चलिए.
The third case study on the Vodafone Idea case. Again, this is a very interesting thing. So here there was the Vodafone is there. Vodafone, they are providing. Yeah, quickly I'll tell the facts. So they are providing telecom services to the. They have a telecom license and providing telecom services. They are registered in Maharashtra. So they tie up with foreign telecom operators for providing roaming, etc. So whenever all these telecom operators tie up with each other, so whenever a service provider, the subscriber of that company is visiting different country, that the FTO with which we have the agreement will provide the roaming, the telecom services, so that it does not have to change the number and all those things. So here the Vodafone was providing services to a customer of the FTO who was visiting India, and for that they were charging the FTO. The customer was not charged, the FTO was charged, and there was an agreement to that extent with the FTO only. There is no, they don't know who the customer is, they're just using the network of that person. And whenever the customers of Vodafone will travel to outside India, they will use the network of that FTO, and FTO will bill to Vodafone. That is a contractual arrangement. Now here the consideration was payable to VIL by FTOs in convertible foreign exchange, and then they were claiming the export benefit, and refund also was filed. But the refund was rejected, saying that this the place of supply of services in Maharashtra. The ultimate beneficiary is in Maharashtra. The service is being used in Maharashtra, and therefore this does not qualify as an export. That was the case of the department. Then this matter went to the Bombay High Court. Again, a very recent judgment, one and a half months back, and the Bombay High Court said that the main point is that the agreement is between the Vodafone Idea and the foreign telecom operator, and they are receiving consideration. The recipient of service is the foreign telecom operator, who is basically the recipient of service, and there is no doubt on that. VIL has no idea of the subscribers, who the customers are, and the invoice is also issued on the FTO, not on the customer. So the privity of contract is between these two parties only, and therefore the recipient is this person. Again, the service which is being provided, the telecom services, the roaming services, is not in the nature of performance-based service, because it is not service supplied to an individual. In that case, it is to this person only, and that individual person that is not covered. That is, they said, that is not covered in 13(3)(b), and it is under general rule, yes. And therefore it is a export of service, and that will be considered. So they have relied on this very important principle that customer is not your customer. So you cannot say customer is my customer.
So discussing over principal contractor, subcontractor, subcontractor.
Yes. So this is again a very interesting judgment, and again now this has opened the very good judgment, and all the existing service type litigations with regard to business support service, market research, marketing, sales promotion, wherein Indian entities are providing services to foreign entities in respect of the India related activities. This might be a beneficial thing on this. Yes. In case of intermediary, they have given a specific notification also under the GST. There should be 3 parties, the contract, and the same, though it is not intermediary, but similar circular might be coming for this. If that comes for this, that will be beneficial. For
this is clear. In this case, there is no question of intermediary.
Intermediary
means providing main supply.
Main supply. It is a principal to principal basis. Principal to principal basis.
So it is clarity there. All the pending cases can be.
Yes. Then there are certain scenarios which we have created. The crux is that suppose there is an Indian CA firm and there is a foreign CA firm. There is a tie-up between them. But the Indian CA firm is providing certain income tax return filing service and representation service with relation to the foreign CPA firm's client in India, or any merger acquisition is happening. They are providing the stock related service, stock audit related service. Then whether this same judgment will apply, means whether the place of performance of the service has to be seen on the general rule. Who is the receiver? That way. So based on this judgment, I think we can go by the general rule, export of service.
Yes.
There could be some issues for the second and third bullet for representation stock audit. Because as far as audit is concerned, the auditee will not be my foreign person. It will be the Indian firm who will be appointing me as an auditor. For return filing services, no issues. US CPA firm can appoint me for process them. Representation service, as per my limited knowledge of representing court goes, it is the litigant who has to give me the authority to represent him over there. To some extent, I am representing the litigant only for representation services. Can I get authority directly from a foreign law firm that you go and represent him? Don't need a consent from the litigant that yes, I am authorizing him to argue on my behalf. Although recipient of service has defined GST Act, the person who is paying the consideration, all those things are there. But to some extent, there is a recipient in India for that litigant, inform that litigant also. They may or may not be flow of consideration, all those things. And in view of the Supreme Court judgment of Mohit Minerals, the ultimate who is the payer? That concept also become. But the point being over here is the litigant, the recipient of services, since he is also be giving me authority. Similarly for stock auditor. If I'm just assisting the foreign company to count the stock, I'm not signing it, I'm not auditing it. I'm just giving a manpower to audit it and giving a report to him. Fair enough. But as soon as I'm signing the report, who am I giving the report to? The shareholders of the company. I'm not giving my report to the foreign firm. That is where I feel there could be some further challenge.
I beg to differ with you on this count. So your privity of contract of yours is with the foreign CA firm. Foreign CA firms requires your report. You may be sending your, maybe physically doing a stock audit. Only that, suppose that assignment is given to you. Still, what you are giving there, what is important is your report. So that is, I think, very old decision is in service tax. I think. BA technology also said regarding scientific testing and services where it was a report is to be sent. And,
again, so that is where my report, when it is an audit service, my report is addressed to the foreign investor or it is addressed to the shareholders of this.
It is like this case where you send your report or under whose direction you are giving the report to whom. So it is under the CFO. So in my opinion,
can you do that? My first point is that suppose the Indian company has told a foreign company, do my audit and then he gives to me. Can it be done? I don't know.
Exactly.
My point is that cannot be done even.
So that is where I'm saying the Indian company has basically appoint me as auditor. That is what my point is.
What I'm saying in both the cases may not be the practically real way, may not be happening.
Because the appointment letter is always given by the company
to the auditor.
End auditor.
He can't give it to me.
you can outsource certain portion of your audit.
Yes.
I won't be giving the
outsource certain part, not the full part.
Yes. So that's what I think. So that means he's providing to the foreign CFO.
What is
except for representation services, the foreign law firm is giving me, outsourcing me, give me the research, find me the relevant material and send it across to me. That is fine enough, no issue at all. But as soon as I'm representing him over there, unless until I get a wakalat number directly from the litigant, I cannot go and represent him. Litigant has to.
So ultimately, then foreign firm will not give the assignment to me. Assignment will come.
They will pass on the work to me, basically, nothing else.
They can pass on.
They will pass on the work to me.
Pass on.
My contractual privity for commercials may be with the foreign firm, but the appointment has to be there from the Indian company.
That facts has to be.
Yes.
Perfect.
Move on.
Sorry.
This north
Second and
second.
We'll take the second one as the last case.
Yeah,
already beyond.
I think second one now.
We'll just take your view, sir. No
Yes,
discussions.
correct. No discussion.
So here the Northern Operating System Private Limited. So they had contact with that overseas group company to render back office services and technical support services. So this Indian company they had also entered into a secondment agreement with the overseas companies, wherein the overseas companies employees with specific skill sets will come to India and they will perform all the activities on their behalf. So they were seconded employees. So they were here the seconded employees were working in the overall direction and control of the Indian company. But however, the salary, bonus, incentives, social security, welfare, everything was taken care by the overseas company. They were on the payroll of the overseas company only, foreign entity. Here, what was happening, whatever the costs were related to these employees, the salary, bonus, all those costs were reimbursed by the Indian company to the foreign entity, the overseas entity. They were not paying service tax, paying it as a reimbursement of expenses. The service tax authorities said that reimbursement of expenses, again that employee-employer relationship, they are saying they are having dual employment in Indian as well as the foreign company. And the service tax authority demanded service tax on this reimbursement under reverse charge as an import of service. Then this matter went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said that the secondment of employees is by the foreign entity is a manpower supply service and leviable to service tax under reverse charge. The court ruled that the Indian company has only exercised the operational and functional control of the seconded employees, and it is merely facial. It is just the only on the face of it, but over everything is on. They are on the payroll of the foreign entity only. And this secondment agreement, again, very important, is that it is a contract for service and not a contract of service. So there is no employer-employee relationship between Indian entity and the seconded employees. Though there was saying that dual employment is there, but that was rejected. Then the seconded employees are seconded to the Indian company to use their specific skills. So that specific skills are available, then only they are given. And therefore it is something that the foreign company is providing services to Indian company. That is what they are meant to say. And the arrangement with between the companies was that the Indian company cannot terminate the employment of the seconded employee. They cannot do that. Even after the secondment period, on the cessation of the secondment period, the seconded employees will be going back to the overseas employer, and they cannot be sent. Indian company cannot decide that I want to send it to some other company. That decision is not with the Indian company. That decision is with the foreign company. So based on all this, they said that it is the service tax is a manpower supply service and accordingly subject to service tax. Now here there are a lot of litigations in the service tax. A lot of favorable judgments are tribunal judgments are there. Tribunal judgments are there in favor of the RRCs. But now that Supreme Court judgment has unsettled all these things, and now what has to be done? Everyone is in a big challenge. So here, one point going through the judgment, Mr. Sridharan sir was arguing this, and in one point he had pointed out about the revenue neutrality concept. That if the tax was payable and if ITC is fully available, then in that case, this revenue neutrality will apply. Even in the order of the Supreme Court, in one of the paragraphs, 59, they have stated that regarding the question of revenue neutrality is concerned, the assessor's principal contention was that assuming it is liable on reverse charge, nevertheless, it will be entitled to refund. It is noticeable that two orders relied on it merely affirm the rulings of the system without any independent reasoning. Their precedential value is for limited purpose. This court has, in the present case, called upon to adjudicate of the nature of transaction. Whether the incidence of service tax arises by the provision of secondment services, that a particular rate of tax or no tax is payable, or if and when liability arises, the assessee can, through a certain existing arrangement, claim the whole or part of the duty as refund, is irrelevant detail. The incidence of tax is entirely removed from whether, when, and to what extent the Parliament chooses to recover. Here, that though the court, what I understand, sir, is that on the limited point, whether this secondment is a manpower supply service or not, and subject to service tax, that was the point. They have not talked about the revenue neutrality aspect. There are a lot of judgments in the old regime also, whether revenue neutrality, if the duty demand is not sustainable, means, and when the consequence of demand are revenue neutral, then they have said that it is no need to pay, and there are judgments, Supreme Court, tribunal judgments also there. So if the full credit is available, then whether this revenue neutrality ground can be taken, and again, if the demand is there, then again can be contested on this aspect only. That is,
the Supreme Court itself is mentioned in para 59, that SRF and Coca-Cola, two judgments.
Yes.
Coca-Cola's matter has gone to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court simply confirmed with that. They did not go into in the detail.
Yes.
No reasoning was given. Therefore, the Supreme Court itself is saying that these have no very limited precedent value.
Yes.
Because Supreme Court has no occasion to discuss about the correctness of those judgment of tribunal on merit.
Yes.
So they themselves are not accepting the revenue neutrality point. So therefore, even if we take the revenue neutrality point based upon the tribunal judgment, which is confirmed by the Supreme Court, SRF and Coca-Cola, still this point will remain there. So if no certain grounds are there. And somebody asked me, my personal view, revenue neutrality in indirect taxes can never become a cause for non-taxability. Taxability is there for the purpose of penalty. Yes. This will be taken care of. Yes, penalty by
Suppression and all, it can be argued.
Huh?
There is no suppression. There was
yes,
no intent to evade.
penalty you can argue, extended period you can argue, but not to taxability.
So there's a standing Bombay High Court judgment to that effect also. You cannot let go of the liability itself just because it is revenue neutral.
Raj, can I have one comment on this, please?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Raj, the entire judgment, perhaps the counsel of this, particular company has not taken one point. There was a very old celebrated judgment of Dhangadra Chemical Works, wherein they are given the concept of employer-employee relationship. So the persons who are on the secondment to my company, as per the Dhangadra Chemical Works, they are my employees only. They work under my control, my superintendence. Simply because I am paying the salary to them through my foreign counterpart. That is not, that is not the case that, they have supplied me the manpower supply. The employees are my employees only. This is Dhangadra Chemical Works. So, Honorable Supreme Court, it's a fantastic case. I think this case should be gone for the review only on this particular ground. And sir, if you go to the education guide, what is employer-employee relationship service tax ke time pe, the education guide has gone to the extent that even the casual workers and the contractual workers are also my employees. So the main criteria for deciding employer-employee relationship is not your contractual arrangement. It is basically the, under whose superintendence and control these people work. One more case law is there. The Gajendra Singh versus Star or Sony, that was a case of IPR, whether the consultant who is working with the company and, but consultant was working with the company, but entire, the consultant was controlled by the company in the sense he was, when coming in, he was putting his punching time, going, he was putting in punching time, he had to take, when you want to take a leave, he had to take the permission of the company and all the things. So the court has, Honorable Bombay High Court has held this Gajendra Singh, though it has been nomenclated as a consultant, but it is an employee of a company and whatever IPR developed by him that belongs to the company. I think these are some of the basic things have not been perhaps argued in this particular case. And I think this case needs to be reviewed. This is my view. So I think, apart from the tax neutrality aspect, and I agree with Sushil sir, that net neutrality cannot be a ground for at least for the review, but at least this particular ground, employer-employee relationship and who is employee, I think that should be one of the very major point which has been missed out in this particular case. Yeah, Raja, I'm through. Sorry.
No, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
This is good valid inputs. There are two judgments.